Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to give you 5 easy steps to teach you how to be more financially secure and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Before we get into that though, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button and I'll love you forever. Also, before I get started, please note that I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial or investment advice and for entertainment purposes only. So before you can start saving money or do anything towards your goal of no longer living paycheck to paycheck, you have to figure out what your monthly living expenses are. Most people have no idea how much they spend in a month and end up looking at their account balance at the end of the month and thinking, well, I guess I spent that much. Take a look at your expenditures from last month. If you used a debit card or a credit card, this will be easy. And don't forget to include any direct debits that come out of your checking account for things that you can't use a card to pay for, like rent, mortgage, insurance, or some utilities. Now figure out of everything you spent in the last month, what is absolutely necessary. So things like, again, your rent, your mortgage, your utilities, insurance, car payment, things that you can't change from month to month. These are your fixed costs. But things not to include are the coffee and muffin you grabbed at the coffee shop on the way to work the other day, the cute new outfit you picked out for a weekend brunch, or that night out on the town with friends. Those were optional expenses. And we need to figure out what your fixed costs and your required spending are first. Once you add up all of those expenses, you'll know exactly how much you need to make each month to survive. If this amount is greater than your take-home pay for each month, this is a big problem and needs to be remedied before you can do any other steps in this list or even think about saving. Simply put, if you're spending more than you're making, you're in trouble. It's probably going to be easier to change your income than it is going to be to change your fixed expenses. I mean, try lowering your rent simply, right? You're probably going to have to move. That's a lot of work. For most of your fixed expenses, your insurance, your car payment, they're pretty much set in stone and it's going to be really hard to change them. But what you can change easily is your income. You can either get a new job. Probably the number one way to make more money is to get a new job. You can ask for a raise or even get a second job. But if you've gotten yourself into the situation where you're spending more each month than you're bringing in, you really need to change that now. But hopefully you're not that far in over your head and you make more money than you spend each month. And in that case, you're able to proceed to step 2. So I already made a whole video about getting out of credit card debt and how to pay down those balances on various cards in the quickest way possible and most rewarding way possible. I'll link that down below. Check that out if you need more details. But really, before you can have any hope of getting out of like the paycheck to paycheck rat race, you really need to pay down all of your credit card balances, anything with a high interest rate, like a credit card. That's really going to be hindering your progress. Any returns you make from your savings or investments are going to be obliterated by the high interest rates on those credit cards. So you really need to pay those down as soon as possible before you do any other steps in this list. And then promise me, once you've watched that other video, again, link down below, and you've paid off your credit card balances, you'll continue to pay them in full every single month and you'll no longer carry a balance. You can do that for me, right? By paying off your credit card in full every month, they become a tool that you can use to your advantage, not the credit card companies. And you can use that to further your financial life. And please do yourself a huge favor and stop using debit cards. If your data is ever stolen, it's going to be a huge nightmare to get your money back. With debit cards, it's taking your money directly from your checking account and then it's gone, possibly forever. With a credit card, you've at least got a 30-day buffer if there's a fraudulent charge that you can get it reversed. But try doing that with a debit card. The fraud protection on credit cards is way better. And on top of that, debit cards, or at least almost every debit card, doesn't offer any sort of rewards program. Almost all credit cards do. So get yourself off of the debit card unless you absolutely must and start using credit cards to your advantage. By finding and using a credit card with a great reward structure, you could possibly travel for free for the rest of your life. Not only using it on all of your day-to-day purchases, but also bigger ticket items that maybe you've overlooked, like certain utilities that can be paid with a credit card. Certain rental companies even let you pay with a credit card, but don't do that if there's any sort of fee associated with it. That would negate any of the returns you would get on your rewards program. Aim for a credit card that gives you at least 2% back on your purchases. A couple of my favorites are the Bank of America credit card, which I actually showed you in another video, which I'll link down below, of how to use credit card sign-up bonuses to get free money to help pay for travel or really anything else. That one is a no annual fee credit card that gives you 3% back on the category of your choice. And I set that to online purchases. So all of my online shopping, I get 3% back. And then I also really like the Capital One Venture card, which gives you 2% back on everything. So I'll kind of use that for the rest. If the categories on the Bank of America card don't work out for you so well, another new credit card that I just learned about, the Venmo credit card, actually kind of does it automatically, where it'll take your number one spending category, give you 3% back on that, take your number two spending category, give you 2% back on that, and then 1% on everything else. But really, you want to sort of use your cards to, of course, get the most percent back as possible. So that's why I like the Capital One Venture card that just gives you 2% on everything, even if there is an annual fee associated with it. Some credit cards are going to be cash back. Typically, those are going to be a lower percentage than the ones that give you rewards points. But the rewards points on the Capital One card, one of the reasons I like it so much is they're very flexible. You don't just have to purchase like travel through their website and through their partners. You can actually use it to redeem it for travel-related purchases. And especially right now, during the times of pandemic, that includes things like DoorDash, which you might be using but not using for travel. But it also includes like Lyft and Uber, other expenses that you might not necessarily think of when it comes to travel, and you might be using already that you could be essentially using for free. All right, you're no longer carrying any credit card debt. You're using those credit cards as a tool to facilitate your financial life. Now's time to build an emergency fund. I recommend having a 3 to 6 month emergency fund that can cover your fixed living expenses in case you lose your primary source of income. It's going to give you a ton of peace of mind. And to build that up, take that money that you were using to pay down those credit card debts in step 2 and roll that into your emergency fund each month. Now, to figure out how much you need for your emergency fund, take those total fixed expenses, the monthly expenses that you pay no matter what every month that we figured out in step 1, and just multiply that by 3 to 6. So let's say your total monthly expenses is $2,000. Well, you'll need anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 sitting in that emergency fund. And just a side note here, an island vacation to Hawaii because you've worked really, really hard the last 3 months and want to treat yourself does not count as a valid reason to use your emergency fund. But we'll get back to that a little later. So where do you actually keep the money that you're saving towards your emergency fund? Many people would find it extremely difficult to have $12,000 just sitting there in their checking account, staring them in the face every time they go to check their monthly balance. So I recommend opening up a high yield savings account with someone like Ally Bank, and something that you just don't really check that often, maybe once a month when you make your contribution, so you're not being tempted to spend that money. And an online-only bank like Ally Bank doesn't use physical branches, so they're not paying to operate those, so they can generally offer slightly higher interest rates. Unfortunately, in spring 2021, of the time of filming this, even the high-yield savings accounts don't really have all that high of a yield, but some interest is still better than none. So even if you choose not to use an online bank like Ally Bank, or Synchrony is another one, I would still suggest using one that isn't the same bank as your checking account, just so you're not tempted by that money, seeing it every time you go to check the rest of your account balances. All right, so if you made it this far, please hit that thumbs up button. Really appreciate it. And let's move on to step 4. So you've got your emergency fund all set to go. You've got about 6 months of living expenses socked away in a savings account somewhere. So even if you lose your job tomorrow, you don't have to panic. Now's time to save for retirement. And optionally, you could do this at the same time as you were building that emergency fund. It's actually what I did. That way you're not missing out on potential gains, because the best time to invest was yesterday. The next best time is today. So it might be beneficial to just start investing a little bit in your retirement, even if it's only, $50 a month. It could still go a long way. In the United States, you have a couple options for retirement. The two most popular are 401k and an IRA. I actually suggest a Roth IRA, but more about that in a second. But basically, these are tax-advantaged accounts that you can save and invest money tax-free until you're ready to retire and then pull it out. Now, the U.S. government says you can pull it out at age 59 and a half. If you think you might need the money before age 59 and a half, you might want to think twice about saving for retirement right now. However, the rewards for doing so and starting now and starting early and investing often are very worth it. If you need help deciding between saving for an emergency fund and investing for retirement, this decision can be very easy to make if your employer offers an employer match contribution on your 401k. This is essentially free money, and you'd be crazy not to take it. So I would, one strategy could be, invest as much into your employer matched 401k up to the maximum that they'll match it, and then take the rest of that and save it into your emergency fund until that's full. Once your emergency fund's full and you're already, making your maximum contribution to your employer match 401k, I would take the rest of the money and max out a Roth IRA. Now, you can open a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Traditional IRA, you put in pre-tax money, and a Roth IRA, you put in post-tax money, like the money you take home on your paycheck. There are many schools of thought on this, but if you're young, chances are by the time you're ready to retire, you're going to be in a much higher tax bracket than you are right now. So I think it makes sense to be taxed on your money now prior to putting it into your retirement account, and therefore using a Roth IRA. You'd be taxed at whatever your tax bracket is now. And then by the time you're ready to pull it out, even if you're in a much, much, much higher tax bracket, you won't have to pay an additional penny with that account accrued. Also, to simply open a Roth IRA and put some money in it is not enough. You have to actually invest the money that you funded the account with. There are many places you can open up a Roth IRA. Vanguard is a very popular one, and once you've got money in there, you could invest it into something like a target date fund, which you actually choose by choosing a year that is close to your predicted retirement year. And basically what it'll do is automatically adjust your asset allocation over the course of that investment. So let's say it's the next 25 to 30 years. It'll automatically adjust that, making it less and less risky as you move towards your eventual retirement age. So if there's a huge fluctuation in the stock market, you're not going to see all of your money disappear the year before you retire. So that already is a very hands-off approach to investing for retirement. But another thing you could do, if you really want to do no work, you can let computers figure it out for you with something known as robo-investing. One of the platforms I like and personally use is called Wealthfront. It's a robo-investing firm that'll take your money and figure out the best asset allocation at any given time based on your risk tolerance and other factors. I've actually included my personal referral link to Wealthfront down in the description below, which will get us both $5,000 managed for free if you use it and keep that account funded. As I mentioned, the goal here is to max out your Roth IRA, and the contribution limits are $6,000 a year if you're under age 50 or $7,000 a year if you're age 50 or over. All right, step 5, so you finally made it. You know exactly how much you're spending each month. You've paid off all that credit card debt. You're using the credit card rewards and cash back to your advantage, bringing in tons of bonus rewards. You've got a solid emergency fund, and you've maxed out all those retirement accounts. What next? It's time to spend. I'm kind of joking, but not really. Whatever you have left over at this point, you can safely spend guilt-free and not have to worry about it. If you do all the other steps, you've maxed out all the other accounts, and at the end of the month, there's $200 sitting in your account, and you want to go to splurge on a nice $200 dinner, you can do that and not feel guilty about it. But it also doesn't mean you have to spend everything left in your account at the end of each month. If you've still got money left over in your accounts at the end of each month, you should really start considering saving for additional goals. These savings accounts are going to be for unexpected yet inevitable expenses. The emergency fund you created earlier, while it could be used to get you out of a jam if your car breaks down unexpectedly, is not really designed for that. It's really to back up your income if you suddenly lose it. To help plan for something like your car breaking down, I would suggest another additional savings account for car repair or for saving for a wedding, or saving for your mortgage, or saving for medical expenses. Now, these can be physical additional savings accounts, or one of the reasons I like using Ally Bank, as I mentioned earlier, is they actually have these buckets you can use to kind of create like virtual little like buckets of money they can use for different purposes. So for the car repair fund example, let's say you look at your bills from the last 5 years and you find that on average you spend around $1,000 a year on repairs. Now, the smart thing to do would be to take that $1,000 and divide it by 12 months and figure out what you need to save each month to meet that goal. So that way at the end of each year, if you happen to not have any repairs, you'll have $1,000 sitting there for the next time, and that'll continue to grow. Another common category to save for is unexpected medical expenses. Surprise CT scan or MRI can cost a lot, even with insurance. So having a few thousand saved up for just such a case is also a great idea. Same way to do it, just figure out about how much you spend in a 5-year period and divide that by however many months you need to save up for that to figure out how much you need to put away each month. Now, if you're young, maybe you've spent nothing in medical expenses in the last 5 years, but you should start adjusting that because as you age, typically you have to spend more each year on medical expenses. And it's not just surprise expenses you should be saving for. You should be saving for fun stuff as well, for goals. Big one for a lot of people is owning a home, saving for your down payment on your mortgage. Another big expense that a lot of people don't even consider at all until it comes time to plan is a wedding. The average wedding in California, although I don't condone spending this much on a wedding, I think you can have an amazing time for far less money, but the average wedding in California costs over $30,000. Now that is a major expense. That is something you should be saving for at least the start of a relationship, if not before that, if you know you want to get married someday. So let's say you want to get married in 5 years, you just met the love of your life. You should be saving about $500 a month. Or you can hope the bride's parents pay for it. Up to you. A shorter term common savings goal is vacations. Now, let's say you want to take one vacation every year and the average cost of that vacation is about $2,000. Well, take that divided by 12 and you get about $170 a month. So start putting away $170 a month. That way, when it comes time to take that vacation, you're not taking money away from other important things like you're paying off your credit cards on time or investing in your retirement or, even having to take out of your emergency savings. Like I said earlier, that's not for vacations. Plan for vacations. Better yet, use those credit card points that you got earlier and the vacation is free. All right, there you have it. If you follow these 5 steps, you'll get out of that paycheck to paycheck grind and you'll be in a better position financially than most Americans. If you found this video helpful, once again, hit that thumbs up, that like button. It helps out a lot and it'll help show this video to other people like you that might be interested in it. And if you want to see other videos like this in the future, consider subscribing so you'll get notified when I post new videos. If you have any questions on any of the topics I covered today, please leave them in the comments down below. Or if you want me to expound upon any of the topics as well, I can go deeper dive into a future video if that's something you would like. I do read all the comments, so please, can't wait to hear from you. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.